Hello, welcome back to Cracking the Cryptic, where I am going to do a very quick video, I hope today, to accompany Mark's video earlier. So Mark did a review of Alex Belos's new book, which I appreciate didn't really have the normal puzzle content that we like to include. A lot of you rely on us for your brain training every day. So I thought we'd take a look at this puzzle, which has come in from somebody I know in New Zealand, who's normally a good source of, or a good judge of a puzzle, and said that they thought this was a very nice puzzle and that it would make a good video, sort of not a monstrously hard puzzle, but just an elegant puzzle. So we're going to have a look at that now. If you want to have a go first, just click on the link under the video, and that should take you to our webpage where you can have a go. Now, the other thing to mention, don't know if you've noticed it already, I hope there is sound with this video, but I am using a new microphone today. Now, I hope it's an improvement. We haven't had too much bad feedback recently, but some of you do say that the microphone is a bit echoey, so I'm hoping it's better. Do let me know in the comments, and yeah, we'll take those on board. As usual, I'm just going to start. You can see all I'm doing is fluttering around the grid, trying to lock numbers into two positions exactly within 3x3 blocks. So nothing more complicated than sort of spotting these two sixes, therefore there must be a 6 in one of those two squares in this block, and highlighting it in the corners. Nines, look, we can do better. That must be a 9. That means there's a 9 over there. Nines, these 9s mean that's a 9 as well. Which means that's a 9, that's a 9, and that's a 9. So the 9s are now, I think they're done. So that's a useful start. Just 7s. 6s can be pencil marked into one of those squares because of these 6s, look. There's only one 4 in the grid. There are two 5s. They do interact down here, look, they allow me to lock a 5 into one of those squares. Only one 8 as well. Now that 3 is interesting, because that 3 rules out a 3 from those two squares. Now you may say, but that's not useful because you can't pencil mark the 3s. You're quite right, but if we notice, those 3s now in this top right 3x3 block are locked into column 7 and column 9. Now if we scan down the grid, the 3s are locked into the same columns, column 7 and column 9 in this bottom right 3x3 block. So the key here is to realise that we mustn't therefore focus on column 7 and column 9 anymore. They've already got all the 3s they can possibly handle. We need to focus on column 8 and ask where a 3 can go. We know it can't go here. We know it can't go in either of those two squares, so it must go in one of those two positions, which actually isn't useful. Or no, I don't think it is useful. So I'm now been scanning these blocks to see whether I can map the 3s to exactly the same rows, but I can't. So okay, we've got to think again. Now look though, this 3 had an effect over here. This 1 has exactly the identical effect down here. Rules out a 1 from those squares, so the 1 must be in one of these 3 positions. And look, that matches up exactly with the bottom right box. So we now know the ones in this box and the ones in this box are locked into row 7 and row 9. Therefore, the focus needs to be on row 8. Where can a 1 go? Can't go here, can't go in either of those squares. Therefore, we get some pencil mark 1s, and look, pencil mark 1s here, pencil mark 1s here. So in column 1 and column 2, we've located the 1s, if you like. Therefore, in column 3, where can the 1s go? Can't be here and here, can't be here and here because of the pencil marks. So must be in one of those two positions. and there's a 1 there. So that's a 1. And now those ones mean that's a 1. And therefore that's a 1. Now, now this is another good reason for using pencil marks. Let's look at the 1s and the 3s and the 5s and the 2s. We're going to get a flurry of activity here. Because if I know that a pencil mark means a number can only go in exactly 2 positions in a box, then once I eliminate one of those possibilities, I know the other possibility must be true. So here, this can't be a 1 because of this 1. Therefore, this must be a 1. And the moment I place this 1, I'm taking the position of a 3. Therefore, that 3 is going to have to be true. And the moment I place this 3, that 5 now must be true. And the moment I place this 5, that 2 must be true. And we get a big flurry of activity. And that's why these, or one of the reasons these pencil marks are very efficient. Now these 2 squares, the yellow squares here, must be 7 and 8 to complete this block. There's a 7 there, look, so actually we can resolve that. That must be a 7, that must be an 8. Highlight the 7s over there. Now we've got 2 8s in the grid. So there's an 8 here and an 8 here. Oops. And what can we do next? Four must be a 4 in one of these 2 squares. Yeah, okay, so where can a 2 go in this column now? There's a 2 here, look, a 2 here and a 2 here. So there's actual, oh, messed up my highlighting, but, sorry. There's only one place a 2 can go, and that's that one. That's a 2. That means that's a 2. That means that this square must be a 2. That's these 3 2's interacting. The moment I place that 2, that means that must be a 6. And what's more, look, there's 2 2's there, so there must be a 2 in one of these 2 squares. So these 2 squares are a 2 5 pair. These 2 squares must be a 4 8 pair, so that must be 8, that must be 4. Therefore there's now an 8 in one of those 2 positions up here because of these 8's. This must, oh goodness me, this must be a 1 4 pair. This is a 7 8 pair. And can we go, and what can we do next? That is the question. 3, 4 and 6 to complete the central row of the grid. That one, look, that sees a 4 and a 6 in the column, so that square is a 3. Therefore that one must be a 3. Don't have to think about it, just immediately see the pencil marks and unwind them. These 3's force a 3 here, that forces a 3 there. Now that must be a 3 up there. And that's a nice thing to note. So the moment I spotted this 3, I'm actually scanning down this column. Why? Well, the reason is that any number in this column that hasn't appeared in this box yet has suddenly been made much more powerful by this 3. And look at this 7. So now I actually get to pencil mark a 7, which I couldn't have done before this 3 was in the grid. Now let's see if we can do anything with that. So, well, yes, we can. Actually, that's good. Now, the 7's here. Let's look at this column. Where can a 7 go in the column? Well, it can't go here anymore because of these pencil marked 7's. It can't go here because of this 7 there. So it can actually only go there. So that's a 7. That's an 8. This means that we pencil mark 7s here. This 8 means there must be an 8 in one of those two squares. Now look, these 8s, this pencil marked 8 can no longer be true, so its friend up here must be true, and the moment I place that square, well, lots of things happen. Firstly, I get that 7, which means I get the 7 above it as well. This square must be a 4 to complete the column. This is a 5-8 pair to complete the box. And down here I must need a 4, I think, to go along with my 6 to complete this box. Right. So this is a 4 or a 6. That means there's a 5 in one of those two squares, I think. Let's put that in. 5 in one of those two squares because of this 5 down here. Check this column. That's got to be a 4 or a 5. It doesn't look too fruitful, actually. Those of you who enjoy uniqueness might notice this arrangement with the 2s and the 5s. There can't be a 5 in either of those squares. If there is a 5 in either of those squares, the puzzle is broken. And you can see that because this would form a deadly rectangle. If this was a 5, for example, in the finished solution, then we would see a 5 here, a 2 here, and a 2 here. And the problem with that is that these would form a pattern where you could simply shift the 5 into this square. That would make that a 5, that a 2, and that a 2. And there's no way of knowing which of those solutions was the correct one. Of course, the solution on the printed page might tell you that the 5 was there, but the puzzle itself doesn't tell you it's there. That's just an arbitrary choice. There's nothing in the logic that would determine which way round they should go. And that is a sign of a bad Sudoku. So if you start seeing that in your puzzles, you need to change your app or look for different things. Now if we look at this column and ask where a 4 can go, look, this 4 over here. It's very helpful. That's a 4, that's an 8, that's a 5 now. Therefore that should be an 8 up here. Now that sees this pencil mark, so that's an 8, that's an 8, that's a 5. And we could use uniqueness to force the 5 up here and therefore the 5 over here. Now I'm not going to do that, but I will fully appreciate that that's a completely valid way of approaching speed solving this, if that is your preference. This must be a 6 now. Looks a 6 into one of those squares. 7, 7, 7 here. So I'm just trying to see an elegant way of not using uniqueness to do this. Yeah, here we go. There's a 6 here and a 6 here, so that's going to lock a 6 into those two squares. So now we know there's no 5 up there. So the 5s are up here, which means this is a 5. That means that's a 6. We still need 1, 4, and 7 into these squares. So again, if you wanted to, you could note that it's not possible for there to be a 4 in either of those squares, or again we'd have a problem with the exactly the same way we'd have had a problem with the 2s and the 5s. 2, 6 here. Let's just highlight that a bit better. That 4, look, that's what's been staring me in the face for the last 5 minutes. 4, 6 there. Therefore, this should be a 6, I think. That resolves the 6 and the 2. That resolves the 2 and the 5. That resolves that 5. That's 7. That's 7. Must be true now. Therefore, that's a 1. That's a 4. That's a 4. That's a 1. And that should be a 4, I think. That should be a 4, and that should be a 5. And that's how to solve that puzzle. So yeah, took it a bit easy, made a bit of a shank at the end by not noticing that that row was all but complete, but I still think there was some interesting stuff there. And as I say, do let me know if my microphone's better. I'd be interested to know. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoy the content, please subscribe, please give us a thumbs up, we really appreciate it. Back soon with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.